This is Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Opinions expressed on talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is hour number 2 talkback for this Wednesday, November 27th. Talkback this morning is brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters, family owned and operated, top-notch customer service for you. So give them a call, 406-240-2669. As we say, they're protecting the foundation of your future. Making room for you, that's Why West Storage. Out of the Y on Two Smokes Way. You need a place to store your stuff. Here's their number, 406-510-0590. Because again, they're making room for you at Why West. Phillips Janitorial offers both residential and commercial cleaning, your home and your business. They've got you covered. No job too big or small for them. Call Phillips, 406-260-6617, and by Harrington Surgical Supply, where appointments are preferred for mastectomy fittings and custom compressions, but walk-ins are always welcome. because of lack of fire coverage at that point. And so one of our first fire stations, as we understand it at least, is on 3rd Street around what used to be the Goobies gas station and what have you. And so over the years, since that point, we've expanded out. We have 5 fire stations. Used to have 6, but because of expansion by and annexation by the city of Missoula, we have had a station 3 rather that was on Gilbert Street in the Rattlesnake and no longer exists. But because of the closest station agreements that we have in place and what have you with the city of Missoula, they cover that area for us. And so we hope to be beneficial to them, and we believe we are, and they are beneficial to us, but certainly 2 different fire departments Fire. We're here to talk about studies that they're doing, their needs as we go into the future. And Missoula says Missoula's going to do nothing but keep growing, right? I mean, we just can't stop it.
That's right.
That's right. And so they need help. And so we're going to talk about how all of us can help them as well as they help us on a daily basis. So phone lines are open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. I'd love to have some calls from you for the folks who serve you and save your lives every now and then from the Missoula Rural Fire. Back right after this. Again, this is the best of program that we're playing for the first hour. We will be live, Peter and myself, with the Mansfield Center and America 250 at 9 o'clock, but enjoy the rest of this best of. Real estate, Dennis Bragg, updating your town square weather. Mostly sunny after patchy fog Tuesday, although we'll still only be reaching the mid-30s by the afternoon. Clouds will increase later in the day, and that could temper Wednesday morning's cold temperatures somewhat, still starting out in the low to mid-20s. A weak disturbance will push into the northern Rockies Wednesday night through Thursday night as the clouds continue with a 20% chance of snow Thursday night. Cloudy again Friday, and then we're watching some periods of rain and snow for next weekend, but temperatures will remain steady. Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. Our guests in the studio, Missoula Rural Fire District Chief Paul Findlay and Rural Fire Deputy Chief Corey Horsons are both here in the studio. And the phone lines are open at 721-1290 if you have a question or a comment for these gentlemen. Just real quickly, we were discussing a story that I did with you, Corey, about how your crews responded to an accident that occurred up on Blue Mountain Road, and that primarily occurred in the dark. And so tell us about this, some of the, if you will, some of the details of that rescue that are absolutely amazing. Yeah, you bet, Peter. I believe it was last Wednesday evening, our crews were dispatched up the 365 road on I was the first sleeper at the rural fire department when they first formed. We were not equipped or trained in those days like this present rural fire department, which I salute for the Blue Mountain Rescue. That had to be a pretty daunting task. But Matt Pomayevich was the chief of the rural fire department those days, and Red Cottrell was a battalion chief, and Don Anderson was a battalion chief, and I was the grunt. And we're supposed to believe that you're the grunt, is that right? Trust me, I was the grunt. Absolutely. So it was established. There's a cedar products firm there, and adjacent to or across the street from the Coke Company in those days. But we were headquartered out of there, and lots of great experience. However, we did not have the equipment that they have today. And so I salute them as a rural fire department for their professionalism and the excellence in training. Well, Doug, I would imagine you probably more than almost anybody else would be able to certify how important these individuals are to the community, especially now that we've grown so much, and the fact that we have two excellent firefighting institutions here in our city. Both deserve a great deal of support. They certainly do, Peter, and I'll tell you, they're first class. Both departments are first class with first class employees, first class training, and first class equipment. And like I say, it wasn't that way back in 1960. Well, Doug, it's always a pleasure to hear your voice, and thank you for your service to our community. Well, I just called in because when I heard your speakers, I was the first sleeper, and as I say, the first sleeper Good morning. If you could compare and contrast how you on the rural fire respond and how your staff at your stations, and compare that to how the city is staffed and how they respond to emergency situations. Okay, thanks, Larry. Gentlemen, please go ahead. You bet. You bet, Larry. Thanks for your call. This is Corey, by the way. The city and rural, although we both perform a lot of the same functions in terms of providing fire, emergency medical services, technical rescue, and hazardous material response, there is a bit of a difference in how we're staffed. The city, by statute, is required to have a fully paid fire department. So, with their 5 stations, they have a minimum of 16 people on duty each day, 3 people at each of their stations, plus a battalion chief. Whereas us as a fire district, we don't have that mandate to have a fully paid fire department. We're what we call a combination department. So we're made up of both paid firefighters as well as some volunteer firefighters and resident firefighters. So at our headquarters station there on South and Reserve, we have 3 paid firefighters each day, as well as our battalion chief. And then our other 4 stations, our outlying stations, have a minimum of 2 paid firefighters, 24 hours a day, and then we have at least 1 resident firefighter who helps out each night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So we have a little bit less in terms of the way we're staffed, but and our call volume is considerably less than what the city is. We run approximately 4,000 calls a year. This year we're going to come close to running 4,000 calls, whereas the city, I believe, is up over 12,000 a year. I may be off on my numbers a little bit there as far as their call volume, but those are some of the differences that we experience. I think one of the most significant things that we encounter that the city does not is the fact that only a small percentage of the Missoula Rural Fire District actually has fire hydrants, where the city shows up to a building that's on fire. They attach their fire truck to the hydrant system, and they have an unlimited supply of water, whereas in the rural areas, we don't have that luxury. So we about their needs, the things that they are looking at as Missoula continues to grow and expand, as you know it's doing, and what their agency, what their needs are, and what their requests are to the community that they serve. So we're going to come right back with more right after this. Again, this is the best of program that we're doing for the first hour this morning. We will be live at 9 o'clock with the Mansfield Center and America 250, but enjoy this remaining 30 minutes or so of best of. Now is a Dennis Bragg updating your town square weather. Mostly sunny after patchy fog Tuesday, although we'll still only be reaching the mid-30s by the afternoon. Clouds will increase later in the day, and that could temper Wednesday morning's cold temperatures somewhat, still starting out in the low to mid-20s. A weak disturbance will push into the northern Rockies Wednesday night through Thursday night as the clouds continue with a 20% chance of snow Thursday night. Cloudy again Friday, and then we're watching some periods of rain and snow for next weekend, but temperatures will remain steady. We are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. Before we get to our next caller, I know that Corey, you wanted to address a little bit about what Joe was talking about. Yeah, although we are two separate agencies, the rural fire department as well as the city, we're always looking for ways to provide better, more efficient service to the public. And one of the ways that we're doing that currently is by the implementation of automatic vehicle location. Right now we have this, historically anyway, for the last several years, or decades even, both agencies have had a closest station response agreement. fire. So the 911 takes it and they send it to the appropriate agency. How does that work? Correct. Yeah. As you mentioned, Peter, the 911 center definitely does not get enough credit for the work that they do. They really are the first responders, and none of us could do our jobs without them. They're housed over in the basement of the courthouse on West Broadway. And when a call comes in, they have a call taker who determines whether or not or what type of call it is, be it law enforcement or medical or fire, and then dispatches the most appropriate agency. So all of that is handled by the 911 center, and none of our agencies have our own dispatchers per se. That's all handled by the county, who dispatch not only for fire and emergency medical services or EMS, but also dispatch for Missoula City Police Department as well as the Sheriff's Office. So they're busy folks. A very big job. You bet. All right, let's get right back to the phones. Jeff has been waiting. Jeff, good morning. You're on with Paul Findlay and Corey Horsens. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. My question kind of segues into what you were talking about, because you mentioned earlier that you have a rural fire department in the middle of the city now due to city growth, and that sounds, particularly in light of the recent initiative on funding for a new fire station. It just, something seems wrong here if there's a rural fire department in the city, and then the city is looking at building one that's out closer to the county, and you talked about combining, but is there any sort of intermediate steps of rebalancing? I mean, there's a fire station inside the city near Rose Hours, you said, right there on Reserve and South, isn't it?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So, is there any thought about using that as a city, and then a city fire station, and then maybe looking, I don't know which way you would go, south or west or northeast, how you would go out in terms of where your biggest demands are, but actually put something out in the county that would maybe be better able to respond to the county rather than have to come all the way through Missoula and Reserve Street traffic and that sort of thing. I guess just general and looking at scope of responsibilities given the territorial changes.
Okay, Jeff, thanks for the call, gentlemen. Go ahead, please. Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff, and we're actually, I'm glad you brought that up because you're exactly right. When that station at Southern Reserve was built back in 1962 or 63, that station was out in the county. It was out in, kind of in the middle of nowhere, whereas now we know the city has grown up to grown considerably, and that station is now in the city limits. So, recognizing that, yeah, the best service to the folks who pay taxes to the Missoula Rural Fire District is to have stations that are more centrally located in those response areas. We've engaged the services of a third party called ESCI, Emergency Services Consulting Incorporated, and they're conducting a station location study not just for our agency, but for the city as well. So we're working collaboratively with the city of Missoula to determine where the best station locations are for the community as a whole, not just where the best station locations are for the Missoula Rural Fire District or where the best station locations would be for the city of Missoula, but as a whole. And so we've received a draft back from that, but we're awaiting the final result, and we're optimistic that that study will show us where the most efficient locations are in the interests of both agencies, but also for the community as a whole. All right, let's move on, and let's get Rod's call on the line. Rod, good morning. You're on Talk Back with Paul Findlay and Corey Horsons. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate the services of the Missoula Rural Fire Department when it comes to structure and people protection. However, I do have a concern here. It seems like we're on a bond tour in lieu of this study that they have going on where we're going to put fire stations. I don't know if we're aware what the current tax bills are on property owners right now, but the city just got a big bond put on theirs. I'm guessing the results of this study are going to come to another bond. In this past political season, we heard how all this was the governor's fault, which
opportunity right now to let them know what you're thinking. We'll be right back after this. Again, this is the best program we're doing for the first hour. We will be live in about 15 minutes with the Mansfield Center at America 250. Hang on until then. Call 123. Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org. Welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. Peter Christian here, Nick Christensen, taking your phone calls as he always does this morning, producing Talkback. Joining us in the studio, Missoula Rural Fire Chief Paul Findlay, and we have Deputy Chief Corey Horsons also here in the studio. And you wanted to make a quick point before we get to our next caller. Go ahead, Corey. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Just kind of piggyback on to what Paul was saying earlier in response to Rod's call. We certainly appreciate are sympathetic to the public's concerns around increasing taxes. We're all taxpayers as well. I just wanted to clarify that the Missoula Rural Fire District and the City of Missoula are two separate entities. So anyone's taxes who went up as a result of the passage of the last mill levy to support the city fire department would not recognize an increase in taxes should a levy come to the ballot in support of the Missoula Rural Fire District. So there wouldn't be any double taxation there. Just wanted to clarify that. That's very important to know. Very important. All right, appreciate you sharing that. Kevin is up next. Kevin, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback with Paul Findlay and Corey Horsons. Go ahead.
Yes, gentlemen, if anybody can answer this question, I was wondering if you're aware of the Missoula City County Public Report. It's a daily report that comes out every day, and it tells you about all the activity or incidences that have been responded to via the police department, the ambulance service, and the fire department. It used to put down under every incident responding units, such as your fire trucks and everything. Lately, don't know that information, and but we will work towards an answer for that, and try to get that back out to you. We that's new to us, both of us, and so again, we'll work towards answering that question and see what's going on there. There's no reason that we aren't able to share that information. Certainly, anybody who has a scanner or an app anymore can really quite follow us quite well as far as dispatches go and what our units are assigned to and what have you. And so certainly no secrets out there amongst us. And so but that is one thing that we can track down and help out with. So. And then also, is there a site that we can check and see if they don't do this, that you guys keep updated, that we can see any of your responses, of calls? That's a very real possibility for us. We're actually switching some stuff up on our website, and we may be able to do some sort of a dashboard on that in the future to show what our units are doing. And that's another thing that we've taken a note on here this morning, now that you've mentioned it. It is kind of interesting to see the call volume that has happened. For those of us that could have never predicted COVID and the implications that COVID had, of course, our call volume has risen greatly each year, and we track that, and it's again public information what we are doing, right? And so we're glad to share it. And you're disseminating that as best you can. I mean, you don't have a separate division or department to do that. No, we have a public information officer. Our battalion chief, Gregor, helps us out as much as possible in that realm, but he is assigned to shift work, and so he comes on for 24 hours and then leaves for 48. And so we don't have a good way currently of tracking it or letting that information out to the public, but I can see the reason. I got a follow-up question. Sure. I got a follow-up question. So on the big engines that are dispatched to these scenes, and it looks like they have a crew of 4 or more people in there, are there paramedics that are on board those engines?
Generally, so our engines within the Missoula Fire District are guaranteed to be advanced life support. The state has adopted that advanced EMT is of that level. And so generally speaking, we split our paramedics up amongst the shifts, and so that we are responding with a paramedic as often as possible, but it's not always a paramedic. However, it is always advanced life support capabilities, and our engines are set up that way with advanced life support equipment to go along with those personnel who are responding. We also attempt to put a couple of our folks through a paramedic class each year. It's a huge obligation to the person, but it's a benefit to the community, and our folks recognize that, and many have stepped up and taken on those roles and have saved countless lives over the course of their careers with the skills that they have. And so we again don't necessarily have paramedics on every rig, but we do have advanced life support on every rig.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on KGVO and giving us taxpayers an opportunity to ask you questions.
You bet, Kevin. Thanks for the call. We're going to come right back. We have a 1-minute timeout, and we have all of our phone lines are free. If you have a question for Missoula Rural Fire Chief Paul Findlay or Deputy Chief Corey Horsons or both, we'd love to hear from you in the next 8 minutes or so, and we'll be right back after this 1-minute timeout. Okay, we are back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We're in the final segment with our guests from Missoula Rural Fire Chief Paul Findlay and Deputy Chief Corey Horsons. Gentlemen, we have about 5 minutes, maybe 5.5 minutes to wrap up. So give us the meat of what you're asking of our listeners today. Yeah, so we appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you, Peter, and share some of our information. At this point, what we are doing is
serve, the community that we serve, but also ensure that our first responders, our firefighters at each level are as protected as possible moving forward. That's going to do it for our best of program here. We're going to be live with the Mansfield Center and America 250 right after the top of the hour news. So hang tight. Here in about 3 minutes, we will be live with that. This is Talkback 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome. The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers. Welcome, everybody, to this is hour number 2 of Talkback, and we are live today with a very special edition of Talkback. Talkback this morning is brought to you by our friends at Phillips Janitorial, residential and commercial cleaning, your home and your business. No job is too big or small. Call 406-260-6617. Also brought to you by Y West Storage out at the Y on 2 Smokes Way. For pricing and availability, the number is 406-510-0590. At Y West, we are making room for you. Also brought to you by 123 Seamless Gutters. They're protecting the foundation of your future. Let them take care of your gutters so you don't have to. Call 406-240-2669 and by Harrington Surgical Supply, where their mission remains the same: to restore confidence and comfort into your daily life. And of course, I'm Peter Christian. That is Mr. Nick Christensen over there. Good morning, Mr. Nick.
Good morning.
All right, we have a very special program going on for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Mansfield Center, and we have a cadre, if you will, of folks literally on the phone with us right now. And with Chris Averill joining us, Rosie Rios is with us as well. And we are talking about the 250th commission that is coming up here. And I know, Rosie, you are a very important part of all this. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the 250th and what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on today. I'm a big fan of Montana. In fact, my sister-in-law lives there in Missoula. So again, just thrilled to be here. I am organization that's been charged by Congress to orchestrate the most inspiring and inclusive commemoration for the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 2026. But we have hit the ground running. This isn't just about celebrating our past, it's also about thinking about our future. And we want Americans from all backgrounds to reflect on their American story, their thoughts on their past, and their hopes and dreams for the future. So we have a whole slew of programming already underway. We're working closely with our state commissions, of course, and we're thrilled to share more information.
Well, we are absolutely thrilled to have you here talking about what's going on here, specifically in the state of Montana. And Rosie, tell me a little bit about your experience. You were the former treasurer of the United States, and I was looking through my wallet. I didn't see your name on any of the bills, but I'm sure I probably could at some point, right?
How can that be? Yes, I am on about $1.8 trillion of U.S. currency worldwide out of the about $2.2 trillion in circulation. So I should be with you all the time, that's for sure.
I thought my pocket felt a little warmer just knowing you were there. But anyway, all right. So let's talk a little bit about all the things that are happening. Chris, if you want to jump right in, Molly and Logan as well, to share about just exactly what's going to be happening here in the state of Montana specifically.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So Rosie leads America 250, and they've encouraged every state to form their own commission or board or office to help each state individually celebrate America's birthday in 2 years. And so last year, the legislature passed a bill, HB 377, and that established our 11-member commission. We have members from across society that are part of this. We have tribal representatives, we have educators, we have history professionals, and folks like Molly who work in museums and the tourist experience. We have folks like myself who are just kind of history nerds who got a degree in college and finally found a way to use it. And what we all bring to the table is a passion for both celebrating our history and commemorating the events of 1776. not just focused on one singular event. We want to help partners across the state. We've been tasked through legislation to work with partners like educational institutions and museums and veteran service organizations, military organizations, civic engagement organizations, arts and tourism, to really find programming and events and discussions that can help us all reflect upon our history as Americans and as Montanans. Another item that's in the bill specifically for us to undertake in partnership with K through 12 schools is really an uptake of the USCIS citizenship test. So the 100-question test that if you're wanting to become an American citizen, you're asked questions from that. We want our students to know their history, to understand why it's important. And so we're planning a number of things in this space where we can both help schools encourage students to undertake the test and then celebrate them when they get a good grade on the test. We're also working with some folks to develop a Montana-specific test. So basically a citizenship test for Montana history and government that can help them better understand the state in which they live. And again, the goal here is to have everybody see themselves as part in the celebrations, in the activities that we both undertake as well as the ones that we help promote. And Molly, I don't know if you want to add a little bit about some of the things that the programming subcommittee is working on.
Sure. So a lot of the things that we're working on tie into some of the national initiatives. Hoping that Rosie will talk to us a little bit about some of those national initiatives. But I think the great thing about this whole effort to celebrate and commemorate the 250th is that it is collaborative work. So, for example, one of the things that we're doing here in Montana is working with schools that are participating in National History Day. Here, have you ever been to a science fair?
Yes.
Or seeing kids do, okay, so National History Day is kind of like a science fair for history. Middle school and high schoolers do research on a from the 80s science fair situation. But they can even create a website based on their research into a historic topic. And so the Montana 250 Commission is working with teachers across the state to encourage participation in National History Day. Some of the other partnerships that we are working on right now include putting together with Montana State Parks an exhibit that will travel around the state to different locations to really help people remember. We have adopted in Montana as our sort of theme for Montana 250 Metakuasin, which is a Lakota phrase meaning all of my relations, everything is connected. And we really want our Montanans to feel connected, even though we're not part of those original 13 colonies, but also connected to the land here, which is really maybe the thing that makes Montanans feel so proud, and also to be connected to the different people who have really made Montana proud over the 200 years or 250 years that we're celebrating. So there's a lot of specific programs going on. But I'd love to turn it back over to Rosie and hear a little bit about.
I'll tell you what, we are up against a commercial break. We take a break about every 10 minutes or so. Just want to let you guys know. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come right back with Rosie. And of course, we do have a couple of extra phone lines. If you have a question or a comment for our guests, this is going to be mainly educational for you to let you know exactly what's going on in the state of Montana, specifically here in Missoula, with the 250th and the Montana 250. We're going to come right back after this quick timeout. Gentlemen, let's Dennis Bragg updating your town square weather. Mostly sunny after patchy fog Tuesday.
absolutely. And thank you again for having me. And so as you just heard from some of our Montana America's 50 commissioners, we are hitting the ground running, and we made a very deliberate effort to make sure that every state established the America's 50 State Commission, and we're thrilled to share that as of last week, all 50 states now have an official America's 50 Commission, and this is why it's so important, because we want it to be grassroots, we want it to be community-driven, we want it to be exactly what folks have been sharing this morning, and from the national programming perspective, there's something for everyone, including every state. And one of our first initiatives that we launched as a pilot last spring is called America's Field Trip. America's Field Trip is a national student competition for grades 3 through 12, answering the question, what does America mean to you? And it could be an essay form, it could be a piece of art, and we had 75 first place award recipients who were able to participate in these once-in-a-lifetime backstage experiences that have never been offered before to the public. In fact, we had 19 submissions specifically from the state of Montana in that pilot round. Very exciting. But we had a number of students who had a chance to have different experiences, and I had a chance to participate in some of them. So, for example, we visited with a group of kids who got a chance to visit the Statue of Liberty. But it wasn't just a tour of the Statue of Liberty. We took the National Park Service boat from Manhattan to Liberty Island. We went up to the Crown, which normally doesn't happen on the tour. We had a chance to walk the hallowed halls of Ellis Island when no one else was there. We were hosted for lunch by the CEO of B&Y Mellon, and we had a chance to see their markets room, the trading floor, the cybersecurity command center. We ended the day at the New York Federal Reserve, where we had a chance to get an overview of monetary policy, and then got into the deep storage in the vault at the end of the day. And I'll never forget one young student came up to me and she said, I feel like I won the golden ticket, but this is better than Willy Wonka. I mean, for a lot of these kids, it's the first time on a plane. For a lot of these kids, it's the first time out of their state. For a lot of these kids, it's the first time taking their family on a vacation. And that, again, for us, it's going to be very, very important to think about ways to inspire this next generation of leadership. For some of these kids, they probably never even thought about a career in finance or a career in cyber or a career those who actually submitted an essay or a piece of art that our state commissions can also work with. So we're trying to make this again something for everyone, something that everyone can feel like they have a chance to participate and that they could feel what I felt when I remember the bicentennial of 1976. I was turning 11 years old. I was about to be in the 5th grade, and I remember very clearly, taking the field trip to the Freedom Train at the Oakland train station. I remember seeing the tall ships coming through the New York and Boston harbors on a black and white TV. But more than anything, I remember July 4th, 1976 as a cloudy night in Hayward, California. But those fireworks never brighter. And I remember feeling, at the time, my mom, who raised all 9 of us as a single parent in the Bay Area and who ended up sending all 9 of us off to college. I remember thinking to myself, the world is my oyster, anything's possible, and I want my kids to feel that. I want this next generation to feel that their future is very, very bright, and it's still the land of opportunity all over again.
You bet, Ben. Your timing is exquisite because we're right exactly up against a commercial break, and we are talking. This, of course, is the Mansfield Center hour, and we have this once a month here on KGVO on Talkback, and we're absolutely thrilled and privileged to have so many folks with us. We have Chris and Molly and Logan, of course, Rosie Rios, former Treasury Secretary. But we would also like to hear from you if you have a question or a comment for our guests, or perhaps a memory of something. Maybe you had a chance to go see the Constitution in Washington, D.C., or the Declaration of Independence, or any of those wonderful documents. Give us a call, 721-1290. We're going to come right back after this quick timeout. I'm Dennis Bragg, outgoing Montana U.S. Senator John Tester says serving in Helena was one of the best experiences in decades of public service. That revelation came yesterday as the Big Sandy farmer closed out his 18 years on the U.S. Senate floor, thanking everyone from experienced lawmakers to his family and staff, even paying tribute to the hard workers that maintain the Capitol.
If not for term limits, I'd probably still endeavor to be a state legislator. I had my share of successes and failures, but all these commitments taught me, most importantly, that you have 2 ears and you have 1 mouth
Tester's fellow senators was Utah Senator Mitt Romney, saying Tester was one of 3 Democrats he encouraged to run for president when President Biden's campaign was faltering. Romney noted he didn't always agree with Democrats like Tester and Cory Booker and Mark Warner, that he also tried to convince.
Now, why did I approach those 3 men, and not just once, multiple times, and say, you ought to run for president? Not because I agree with them. I disagree with them on almost every issue. It's because I happen to find these 3 men, and John Tester is the one I'm looking at right now, to be men of character, integrity, of honesty, of purpose, who hold fast to the values that made America the hope of the earth.
Romney joked that Tester is honest as his hair is short. Senator Steve Daines also issued a statement thanking Tester's career and his service. This is the Montana State News Network. I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me in supporting paralyzed veterans of America. I joined the Navy to serve my country while parachuting with my platoon. My parachute didn't open. I broke my neck.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I receive from paralyzed veterans of America.
Learn more at pva.org.
Chris Jackman, I served in the United States Air Force and then deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackman, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
We are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, and one of our guests, our special honored guest, Rosie Rios, former Treasury Secretary of the United States, and she is also the chair of America 250. And we were just talking about how wonderful it is to bring both after a really, divisive election that we just came through, to bring people together to talk about something that all of us can celebrate, and that's our Constitution, Rosie.
Absolutely, and technically we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But I think that's an important point because I think a journey that our country had to go through in order to become the oldest democracy in the world. And so this isn't just about the Declaration of Independence. 12 years later was the ratification of the Constitution in 1788, and then, of course, the next year, 1789, is when George Washington became president. So that journey of our country and what it took in terms of the sacrifices that had to be made in order for us to become that democracy is a very, big theme of ours. This is a journey. This isn't just a moment in time. This is really a movement. And the fact that we as a congressional commission, I'd already mentioned that we've already established a state commission in all 50 states, which is so exciting. Florida became our 50th state last week. But in addition to that, one of my other pledges when I became chair in September of 2022, my first meeting as chair, is that I also set out to say that we were going to form the largest bicameral, bipartisan congressional caucus on the Hill. And thankfully, last week, we actually became the largest bicameral, bipartisan congressional caucus on the Hill. But here's the beauty of this is, this is when we were at 241 members. Actually, today we're at 245. But at 241, I have the stats in front of me. Ready for this? Of the 241 congressional caucus members, 119 are Democrat, 121 are Republican, and we have one independent. So the fact that they're almost equally represented, we're not doing that intentionally. It's happening organically. And I think that sends a very, very big message that this Congress wants us to be, a commemoration and celebration from sea to shining sea. It has to be what I say from Guam to Alaska, from Fairbanks to Philadelphia, and everything in between. And I want Montana Commission to also talk about this a little bit more too. But what I do want to also say is our goal as this commission is to provide that infrastructure, is to provide that baseline, that foundation that allows states like Montana to be successful. And so one of the other initiatives that we're also launching in the next year is this master calendar, an interactive map, where people will be able to go to our website, americanishistory.org, and look at Montana and know exactly what is happening in that great state. And we're actually going to have these state commissions take the lead in populating what's happening in their states. So this is why that relationship between the Congressional Commission and the state right? I mean, we really are a nation of nations. If you look at, for example, Alaska in 1776 was Russia. My home state of California, was Mexico and maybe, Spain leading into that. And then, of course, Hawaii was its own kingdom. Texas had different flags fly over it. We doubled our footprint with the Louisiana Purchase with France. And so thinking about this concept of being a nation of nations is very, very important. We're the only country in the entire world that has every other country represented in it. And so, while we are not the world is us. And so that responsibility of what it means, again, to be that oldest democracy and to really kind of showcase how we became a country, and again, what that means moving forward is going to be very, very important. And think about what else is happening in 2026, right? The World Cup is also happening, most of the games in the U.S., and let's not forget, 2 very short years later is the Olympics in Los Angeles. And so, I was recently this year on a panel at the Milken Global Conference with Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, and gold medalist Evans and Lizzie Vaughn, talking about the intersection of these 3 historical milestones all happening within 2 very short years, where the eyes of the world are going to be watching what happens in the U.S. So that responsibility, that kind of, audience that we can capture in terms of what this means for all of us is going to be so important moving forward.
And we need to put our best foot forward, obviously. And with a commission like this, I would imagine there are so many things that are involved in this, Rosie and Chris and Molly and Logan, that there are so many things involved in this that every single American, every single person in this country can take part in some way.
Absolutely, and look, the state of Montana has been such a great example. I mean, even Montana Governor Greg Gianforte has been all in on promoting, for example, even America's field trip. In early May, the governor posted a video to his social media account encouraging Montana students to participate in America's field trip. They also issued a statewide press release that included, the quote from the Montana Certificate Chair, Chris Avril. So there's lots of ways for people to get involved, and I want to yield this time to the great state of Montana to talk about their plans as well.
Chris, go ahead.
working with partners to identify what they're doing. But I know we're probably short before break. I just want to go back to one point you made, Peter, about imagine how amazing it would be to go back in time and witness the development of this country. 100 years ago, Calvin Coolidge was president for the 150th anniversary. And he sort of, I think, his remarks around then inspired people to go back themselves and do some introspection. He talked about before we can understand the conclusions of our founding fathers, we must go back and review the course which they followed. We must think the thoughts which they thought. And he said if we're to maintain the great heritage which has been bequeathed to us, we must be like-minded as the fathers who created it. So I think part of what comes out of this process is, again, the sense that everybody has a role to play, and everybody can go back and go to the library or go to the bookstore and find some wonderful books about our history and then reflect upon what those values mean to them. And so for students, like Rosie said, there's essay competitions. Molly mentioned National History Day. But for us, we selected 3 themes that we're kind of bucketing our initiatives around. And one is called our ongoing American experiment. And that's the idea that we started a revolution well before the actual bullets were fired. But that revolution, that experiment is ongoing. It's not complete. We still have work to do collectively and individually. And so that's one area where discussion groups, book groups, things that we can highlight that other communities are doing would be really important. Lecture series, interactive exhibits at museums. And so part of our goal as the Montana 250th Commission is to put the word out to our partners, to folks that are doing this work all across the state and asking them to let us know about it, let us be aware, and then to Rosie's point, put it on a national calendar. So if people are visiting the state over the next 2 years and they say, we want to do something unique, we want to do something that's local, they can look at this calendar and say, wow, this discussion going on, or there's this exhibit or this presentation, and they can be a part of it too, and we can learn from each other. This is not just, again, every state has a commission, but those commission lines aren't within the state alone. We have regular coordination calls between all the what everybody's doing, and we're learning from that. In fact, Rosie had us all to Washington, D.C. in July, and we had so many great ideas coming about that, and I can talk about them over the next half hour.
We will. We're up against a break. I want to get Emmett's call on when we get back from the break real quickly. So stay with us. By the way, we're talking about the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence called America 250. We're going to come right back after this. We are back on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. We're basically celebrating the U.S. Constitution, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Of course, going through with the Constitution as well, a host of guests on the phone with us. Chris, Molly, Logan, Rosie, and of course Emmett has been waiting to ask a question. So, Emmett, what's your question for our guests? Quickly, please.
Well, I was thinking, it sounds really good, inspiring essays, getting students field trips at our national monuments. But why don't you just have an essay contest written for anyone who wants to participate, especially the very low income like myself. Those are on food stamps, the working poor, even the homeless. What do you want to see America to be? I mean, how do you want us to be a more perfect union? What does freedom look like to you? How can we improve our freedoms? How can we make this truly a country of liberty and justice for everyone? What is your vision for America? That would be fascinating. It doesn't have to be the internet. I could just write on pen and paper and submit it to whatever in the mail. I think this would be excellent for everyone. Is that going to be part of this? Because I think that's important.
That's a good question. Thank you for the call.
I love that. Let me take that one. I love that suggestion. We actually did start out, and in fact, on July 4th, 2023, we actually launched an initiative called America's Invitation, and that was kind of our 3-year count-up to 2026. And America's Invitation is exactly that, inviting the American public to take this journey with us. And we launched this in the great state of Wisconsin, nice purple state with Major League Baseball at the Milwaukee Brewers against Chicago Cubs game. Basically kind of a light toe in the water, if you will, letting folks know that this milestone American invitation is a couple of things. It is a portal where you can submit a video on what America means to you. Maybe it's your ideas, your suggestions. Maybe it's a family recipe. One of my favorite videos that we received today is a family sitting around a piano composing a song about what America means to them. But we have also received letters. We have also received a lot of great feedback from the American public, and we want that to continue. So that's evergreen. That's going to be ongoing. It's already on our website. You can contact us immediately at americanshipping.org. But I think the other piece that we're doing that's going to be also very, very captivating, and this is when I get to visit the great state of Montana, is we launched our American story this last July 4th. Our American story is a two-part process. So starting this last July 4th, 2024, to next July 4th, 2025, you can go online at americanshipping.org and nominate whose story you think should be preserved in perpetuity at the Library of Congress. And so for this next full year, we'll be taking in that information. You could also again mail us, email us, however it works for folks. And then that's going to inform us of where we're going to hit the road next year. So next July 4th, 2025, we're going to visit all 56 parts of our country, including the states, D.C., and the 5 occupied territories. This is in partnership with Walmart, which of course is the largest employer in almost every state. And we want to visit every part of the country. We want to go to the Deep South. We want to go to tribal nations. We want to go to faith-based communities. We want to go to rural America. We want to go to farmland. And I'm going to be in Montana again. And this is where we want to kind of unbury the buried treasure of stories that perhaps have never been told. We want to know whether it is that recipe. We want to know again, my mom who came to this great country to have us all pursue our own American dream. And so how we think about these stories are very, very different and different perspectives. And so that's kind of one other initiative that's underway that, again, is just a great way for all Americans to participate about their own American story.
Wonderful. We have another caller. Let's get a quick question in from Dave. Dave, quickly, what's your question for our guest, sir?
First of all, I'd like to say, 55 people delegates got together and worked out the Constitution. It was not a perfect document. There was a lot of, no one walking out of that room that day said that was, they got their way. It was a compromise. Everything about the away. It's about compromise. And I think that's the message that people should take with us.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Sure.
Rosie, your thoughts?
Sorry, this is Molly.
Molly, go ahead, please. Yes.
Hi. I actually wanted to go back and build on something that Rosie had said. One of the themes that the Montana 250 Commission has adopted for our celebration here is this idea of doing history. And doing history is, it's kind of what we're talking about here right now, even what the callers are saying. It's about reflecting on our past. Historians, and I work out at Travelers Rest State Park in Lolo. I tell the story of Lewis and Clark all the time. But part of what we're doing here is digging deeper into those common stories to find the common ground, as that last caller said about compromise. The Lewis and Clark expedition doesn't make it all the way through Montana to the Oregon coast and back without compromise, without working together, no matter what their differences were. And I think that we are hoping to provide lots of opportunities for folks in Montana to do history, whether it's by recording an oral history, a memory of their family, as Rosie was talking about, a great family song or recipe, or just telling their own stories, because all of us are connected in this great American story and have been for 250 years.
And with that, we're going to take a break, come right back, and we appreciate all that we've heard so far. Still have some lines open. If you have a question or a comment for our guests, and we're talking, this is the Mansfield Center segment on Talkback, and we do this once a month. We deeply appreciate their cooperation, the University of Montana, and all that is connected with it. We'll be right back after this. Back 721-1290 is our number.
recording your history and sending it in and getting it potentially recognized by the Library of Congress. But we want to do some other fun things too, and as I mentioned, when Rosie had us in D.C. with all the state commissions, we learned from some of the other folks about what they're doing and how they're celebrating both their state's history and American history. And next April, we are planning at the Montana State Capitol an event called Two Lights for Tomorrow. And what that is, it's a commemoration of the first shots heard around the world at Lexington and Concord, and the ride of Paul Revere, which for me, having grown up in Boston, is part of everyday lore. But I know most folks are familiar with at least the Longfellow poem. But the notion that when they knew the British were coming, they were going into the interior parts of colonial Massachusetts, and Paul Revere was waiting to find out from the steeple of the Old North Church whether they were going to come in by sea, one if by land, or two if by sea. And so obviously they came in through the harbor, and we're gonna have a ceremony that sort of, we're gonna put the two lights up, and we're gonna use that as a call to action for a day of service on the following day, the 19th. So the Friday the 18th will be the ceremony in the Capitol. We're working on the details now, and we'll be sure to get those details out so everybody can come participate. And we want to use it as a way to honor and celebrate some of these folks that we've been talking about, some of the folks who have written those essays as part of America's field trip. If we can recognize some of those 19 Montana students who have done so. We want to talk about the history and the importance of that day 250 years ago, when Paul Revere and William Dawes went out into the countryside and warned that the British were coming, and subsequently the skirmishes in Lexington and Concord, and what that meant for the future of our nation. So this is going to be a fun event, but also an event where we're able to give back, we're able to remind ourselves why it's important to be Americans. We talked a lot in the last segment, last block, about compromise and consensus and bringing people together. And that's something like this, again, our partners across the state, if have ideas for community cleanups or different community service events that we can then send people out into the communities across the state and help make our communities a little better. It's a great way to both celebrate our past and again look at our future. And then some of the other fun things I think we were on the air when I mentioned the idea of a state ice cream flavor, working with some folks on a collaboratively brewed beer with Montana. It'd be a Montana 250 beer with all Montana ingredients. We're in discussions with different folks about how to make those happen. So when you go to your local ice cream shop or your local brewery, you might see something that is specifically commemorating Montana 250. And again, that sort of just gets you thinking and talking amongst one another. So some of these things are going to be very, big picture, well organized, and some of them are going to be pretty diffused throughout the community. And we look forward to getting all that information out. We're relatively new at the commission. I guess, before it being last week, I guess we can't claim we're all that new, but we have so many ideas, and we have so many folks who have ideas that our goal is to really emphasize what people are doing on the ground and emphasize how people can participate without us being seen as sort of the overarching, ringleader here, so to speak. And then there's one last thing that our communications subcommittee group is working on, and it's sort of a monthly theme of honoring Montanans. One of the pieces of legislation tasks us with, and I want to read the exact words, draw attention to the achievements, honors, innovations, and significance of the people in this state, and recommend ways for this state to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the independence and founding of the United States. So we want to look maybe, who are some folks that we can honor in different industries and different walks of life, and maybe involve some of our elected officials in promoting them, doing a Montanan of the month. And so we could have contemporary folks, we could have historical figures, or we're just taking a moment to reflect on the great people who have come out of Montana, what they've done for our communities, for our state, for our nation. And that sort of goes well with
tell you that the 2 years that we have between now and 2026 is good because ice cream makers and brewers need some time to come up with the perfect flavor and the perfect brew. As you know, those things don't happen overnight, so this is a good thing to plan for.
And we're happy to I'm sure lots of volunteers
I'm sure, yeah.
sample as you refine your recipe.
Yeah, we're up against our last break, and we're having a marvelous time, and we would love to have you join us. 721-1290 is our number. We've learned a lot, and we can't wait for the updates as they surely will come along. So this is the Mansfield Center segment of Talkback. We'll be back in one quick minute. Hey, we're back on Talkback. Logan is with us as well, and Logan, I know you represent the Mansfield Center, and so I know you had some things you wanted to add before we get to our closing comments.
Thank you so much. We here at the Mansfield Center are here to support the mission of the 250 Commission, and with youth programming, we have a focus on civic engagement, civil discourse, and strengthening our democratic institutions by fostering globally minded leaders. We have opportunities for students to engage and learn from national experts, including Reverend Rivers. And recently we just hosted Doris Kearns Goodwin last week. And in April we will have Robert Putnam be a special guest. So we do a lot engaging with our high school students and college students, and we even have opportunities for secondary educators in social studies and civics to enhance their teaching material. Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So, Chris, go ahead, please.
I'll take it to Rosie. I know she has some thoughts first.
Yeah, well, I want to just kind of expand on something that you started, Chris, which is so important, which is this concept of Americans who have sacrificed on our behalf will be absolutely recognized and honored every step of the way. And one of the other initiatives that we have previewed already is called America Gives. America Gives uses the two federally recognized days of service to make giving back a year-round effort. A lot of folks wouldn't know this, but when most people think about giving back, they think about the holidays and Giving Tuesday. But by starting with, MLK Day in January, and then on to the second federally recognized day of service, which most people wouldn't know, is 9/11 in September, and then, of course, leaving the holidays. A lot of these kids, a lot of these high school kids need to do community service in order to graduate from high school. Why aren't we making this a family effort? Why aren't we making this a year-round effort? That's something that is part of our DNA, is the values in which our country was founded. And so we're launching America Gives as part of this effort to make 2026 the largest year of service ever recorded by our country.
Wouldn't it be nice to get our children's heads away from the phone, away from the screen, and into actual conversation and working together as a family on a project that might help their neighborhood or their community? I think that would be great.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. And we're fortunate in Montana to have places like the Mansfield Center or Humanities Montana with their Democracy Project. There are lots of ways for kids to start thinking about ways to be better citizens. And I think that's maybe the point of the whole idea of commemorating the 250th of the Declaration of Independence is that, this isn't just about some guys that got together 250 years ago and wrote a document. This is about every American today and how we can all, as you said earlier, join together to form a more perfect union. So it's pretty exactly, and inspire them to think and visualize their future, maybe for the very first time.
Now, we have about 3 minutes left for each of you to make a closing statement or a comment to encourage folks to jump right in here and get moving with this.
So I'll just start as Rosie Rios, Chair of America 250. You can already go to our website, america250.org, and you can already participate in American Visitation by submitting your video or nominating someone for Our American Story, or participate in America's field trip by submitting your essay or your piece of art for grades 3 through 12 on what America means to you.
Thank you, Rosie.
I'll build on America Logan
want to learn more.
So I just wanted to talk about our programs really quickly, and they are free to the public, but we have the Big Sky Lead, Empowering Montana's Future Leaders, where we have Montana's high school students come up from all over the state. We have the Youth Engagement Program, which is a 2-week summer experience from kids from Chicago and Montana, and they get to
Be engaged in community service opportunities. You don't even, that's the other thing. The beauty of this whole celebration is you don't need an invitation necessarily. You don't need to wait for someone to do something. If you have an idea, one of the callers that said, can we have an essay contest for everybody? And that's what's so great about this process is there are so many outlets for you to make your voice heard, to share what